So Pokopia is about to release, and you guys may need some tips and just general information to help you get started from the get-go before you go right into this game, because there's loads of stuff to know. So I'm going to give you a few things that we've learned about it thanks to Game 8 and a few other people that have been just aggregating a lot of information. So let's get started. First of all, make sure to befriend these three Pokemon, that being Bulbasaur, Squirtle, Scyther, and probably also Charmander might be worth it, but those first three are super important, because not just because they're cute and awesome Pokemon, but because they have moves that they teach you which are really important. See, when you play, you will be playing as this Ditto, and Ditto can actually learn, you as the player can learn different moves from different Pokemon, and there are specifically these three which are really important. Bulbasaur gives you Leaf Age, and Leaf Age just lets you essentially plant grass and vegetation instantly. Squirtle also gives you Water Gun, and this helps you with watering plants obviously, but also with any other water features, like for example if you want to revive some dried out patches of land, you can use Water Gun to revive those patches. And then of course Scyther gives you Cut, which is basically like your axe, and without Cut you can't take down trees, you can't get rid of certain grass, which means you're not getting access to things like wood or really certain resources like that, which means you barely are going to be able to build anything. So you will need Scyther very early on, and there is an easy way to get these guys. You simply have to use Leaf Age and of course Water Gun, and then essentially make patches of grass around if you can find a tree, and Scyther should show up when you make like 4 or so patches of grass. But again, the game doesn't, give you traditional tools like axes or pickaxes like Minecraft. Instead, Ditto, like the character you play as, is the entire moveset, and you need to essentially, interact with other Pokemon to learn their movesets. Super important, make sure you do that. So as you walk around, you should definitely make sure to pay attention to the sparkles. You see, it sounds obvious, but everywhere you walk around, there will be spots where you can see some sparkling objects in the world. And if you walk up and inspect them, 9 out of 10 times, it's gonna give you a hint about what kind of a habitat you can build, and specifically what objective is nearby for you to do. The game is not going to hold your hand on, the habitat building itself, but it will give you directions if you use these. So if you see a sparkle literally anywhere, make sure to check them out. Like if you see a sparkle in water specifically, those usually lead to like items rather than habitat hints, but it's still worth checking all these because they're going to give you a lot of information. So definitely check all the sparkles. They're similar to the sparkles in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but except there they give you items, here they give you hints as well as potentially more things. Another thing to keep in mind is that this game runs on a real-time clock. Yes, that means Pokopia uses an actual clock on your Switch 2, and yes, the game is exclusive to Switch 2. There won't be a Switch 1 release, but yeah, essentially whatever time it is where you live, that's what time it is in game. This matters more than you might think because certain Pokemon only show up at specific times of the day, meaning if you're trying to attract a particular Pokemon or a species and it keeps not appearing, you may actually really have to wait till nighttime for that thing to show up, or in the morning. Now we don't know if there's going to be a way to just go into your settings and manipulate it, because if you did this at Animal Crossing, they would punish you for it. You would sometimes actually just straight up get, in trouble with Nintendo if you try to do things like this by circumventing certain mechanics. But we don't know if that's going to be the case here too. Most likely it will, which means that, yeah, make sure to keep track of what time of the day you are playing the game, because if you play this early in the day, you may run into specific Pokemon, or specific Pokemon might show up in their habitats, and if you're playing at night, certain Pokemon might show up more likely as well. So just keep that in mind. If you hold the Y button on your Joy-Con, you can vacuum up items. So if you've been cutting down a bunch of grass and you want to make sure you get all those items up, guess what? You just hold in Y and you will turn into Kirby for a few seconds, which allows you to essentially just scoop up everything around you. It's a small detail, but it's an important one because you could easily overlook it and not realize that it's there for you. So something that's important is you do actually use PP in this game. Yeah, for whatever reason, they decided to make PP, which if you guys do not know are like the PowerPoints or whatever that you have in Pokemon regular mainline games, which you have a limited quantity of PP on each move that you have. And same thing here. Every time you use a move, you are going to be consuming PP, and that's this blue bar at the bottom right of the screen. And when you run out of them, Ditto gets tired, and using any move at all becomes kind of a struggle. So to fix this, it's pretty simple. You have to eat food in the game. Berries are the easiest and early source for you to restore these. And the mistake most people probably are going to be making is by waiting too long and running out of, all of their energy. So make sure you constantly like tap yourself up with a little bit of like berries. Lepa berries, for example, will probably be available and great for this. So yeah, just make sure to stack up on berries as much as you can, because you're going to be running out of PP quite often. And this is another thing about PP, but building on that last tip, essentially your PP pool is very small early on, and the temptation to then dump all your energy into one big project to build one big building may not be the smartest thing. So instead, try to do a little bit of everything at a time. Plant some grass, clear a few trees, water something, eat something, interact with a few Pokemon. Don't just go in and just blow all your PP on building just one big building. I know the urge for Minecraft players is going to be to just go just balls to the walls and just build shit right away, but try to take things little by little. Next up, rebuild the Pokemon Center as fast as you possibly can. The Pokemon Center is the first major reconstruction that you have to do, because we are essentially now in a future, essentially dead version of Kanto. This is Kanto, but it's lost all its flavor. All the humans are gone and only Pokemon remain now. So because of that, we need to rebuild things, and we start by rebuilding the Pokemon Center as the first thing. And as such, make sure that you do this, because pushing your environment forward and leveling it up and completing more things around your little starting area is going to be beneficial to get you the resources you need to then go out and just explore and have fun as much as you want to. Also, make sure to just interact with the different Pokemon around you. See, a lot of people are going to be, playing the game and not realizing that, hey, maybe I should, talk to all these Pokemon instead of just going around and Minecrafting my way through the game. But definitely do talk to Pokemon. And after you befriend them, there is an entire separate system in the game where you can actively talk to them and bring them with you to walk around with you, but also build friendships, right? And if you build buildings for them to live inside of, or if you make your own building, they can also show up there after you move in, or if they move in, you can interact with them, you can talk to them, you can give them you can exchange things, gifts, stuff like that. It's just worth it. Also, you can craft specific items to make it more comfortable for them in their different habitats. So definitely do that as well, because it will help you in the long run by giving you access to more and more of the game. Make sure to utilize every Pokemon's specialty. Like, every Pokemon has at least one specialty in this game, whether that be like chopping wood, building, farming, and so on. You can essentially check what these are by looking into the game's Pokédex. And here's the thing, you can ask Pokemon to follow you along, like I said before, and lead them to wherever the task that matches their specialty is, and they'll help you out to do it. So this is genuinely useful for any construction work you need to do, and if a Pokemon has a building specialty, they can help you assemble buildings and stuff very quickly, and sometimes you may not be able to even progress if you don't talk to as many Pokemon as possible. So try to talk to all of them and try to look into what each one's specialization is. So if you set up your workbench, you should probably set up a storage box right next to it. This is just a quality of life thing to do, which is going to make things very, very easy, because you're not going to have to run back and forth between the workbench and a giant box to check your stuff. This way, they're right next to each other. So if you craft something, if you have too much resources, you can pop it into the box and then use what you need, craft what you need, and get going. So really useful to put these two right next to each other when you do actually craft them and make them. Also, make sure to enjoy the photo mode. Yeah, so the game has a photo mode in it, which is going to be probably a lot of fun to use. So make sure to use it. It's literally there for a reason. It's there to be used. It's there to be had fun with. So make sure you take full advantage of it, because it is going to be worthwhile in the long run to just, have fun in this game. That's the most important thing. So just enjoy it. So Pokopia actually has two different multiplayer options, right? Now, there's actually two separate ways to play this game. First one is island visiting, which is essentially like Animal Crossing style, where up to 4 players can join your main story island as guests, and they can build and gather with you, and they can basically help you with progression, and works online and locally. The one thing though is that they cannot really invite wild Pokemon. However, there's another thing called Cloud Islands, which is a completely separate thing from your story. It's a blank island on a persistent server that essentially stays online even when you are not playing. So this is essentially Cloud Islands, as the name implies, are cloud servers. It's literally a server that you can run with your friends, where unlimited players can register to it, and with 4 active ones at a time cycling in and out. It is pretty awesome, and think of it kind of like, again, a private server in Minecraft, something like that, where basically you can just mess around. It's like a sandbox that exists mostly independently away from the main game and the main story. story of the game, which is pretty awesome. So do make sure though that if you're going to play the game, that you know which version and how you want to approach it if you're going to go multiplayer. Also, if you want to turn a building into a home in the game, like if you make a building and you want it to turn into a home for you, all you got to do is add 3 furniture items. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Place at least 3 furniture items inside, and then when it's ready, you can ask a Pokemon to follow you and reassign them to the house as their new habitat. There's also some items that do require electricity, like for example lamps and really any other lighting features, which yes, you can make lamps, you can make an entire electrical grid essentially, but these are generated from electric type Pokemon, which are essentially a source of electricity. But you can also make things like windmills, which can also distribute electricity through the power lines. But yes, you can essentially set up an entire power system for electricity for your entire town. So make sure that if you're going to do this, do get your hands on as many electric type Pokemon as you can early on, because it's going to be worth it in the long run. So this is a pretty big one, but there are loads of different habitats you're going to be able to make. But here are some of the early ones in case you want to know how to do them. So if you want to make a tall grass, you're going to need tall grass, well, 4 times here. You're going to have to make 4 of them. And when you do this, you're going to be able to actually see Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle show up in these habitats. If you want to get yourself the 3 shaded tall grass, you're going to need tall grass 4 times next to a tree. So basically, you just make tall grass appear by using Leafage, or I think it's Leafage plus Water Gun, and you're going to have tall grass show up. But essentially, by doing this, if you do it next to a tree, Scyther can show up. Also, if you want to get your hands on the boulder shaded tall grass, go next to a large boulder and then make 3 grass patches around it, and you will be able to spawn in Matchup and Timber. Also, if you want to get the pretty flower bed, here you got to just get some wildflowers and plant those wildflowers, and then you have a chance of Pidgey, Eevee, and Combi actually showing up as well. We do also have something called a hydrated flower bed. We don't know what Pokemon appear on this one, but for this one you need wildflowers, 6 of them, next to the coast of water, or like to a coast of water, essentially just next to any water essentially. Also, there's the exercise resting spot. Now to make this one, you need to get your hands on a punching bag and a seat, any kind of seat, and if you get these 2 together, guess what? Hitmonchans will start showing up and will want to like hang out, and these habitats will be important for these Pokemon. If you already have a Hitmonchan, they're going to enjoy having something to punch essentially. Also, if you want to get your hands on the fishing rod and chair, or rather if you want to get, you know, Magikarps, you're going to have to get a fishing rod and a chair next to some water, really any body of water, and Magikarps will be able to show up as well. Also, if you want Trubbish, you can put a trash can and some garbage bags out, and those will make Trubbish appear. And also, if you want to get Larvitar, it looks like you might need a 2x2 tile of mossy grass inside of a cave to make it appear, at least based on early information. Again, if this stuff is different later, you know, we'll make a separate video to explain it, but this is just tips and tricks early on, just things to maybe know as you're starting to play the game. Maybe you're sitting and playing it right now. Next up, though, of course, if you want to get Gulpin, we got essentially, you just need wooden sticks inside a house. So you just got to use those in an abandoned house and you can make a Gulpin appear. And if you want to get Exeggutor, you're going to have to get a flower bed near a palm tree. So find a palm tree and then get 2x2 tiles of flowers next to it, and you could maybe get yourself an Exeggutor. So there is loads of these. It's pretty awesome. So while you're exploring the land and you find traces of Pokemon on the ground, you can interact with these tiles of these traces of Pokemon, and you'll get a hint about a habitat, which will then be registered in your habitat dex. So there are separate dexes, right? There's a regular Pokédex, and the habitat dex is specifically used to register what kind of habitats exist and what kind of Pokemon might appear at it. So definitely pay attention to that too. Of course, if you place items and furniture, you will also get hints about those habitats, as well as make certain Pokemon appear. So once you get a hint about a habitat, you can then use moves, you know, like cut, Leafage, whatever, or place required items and furniture to restore a habitat, right? So if you find like, I don't know, a bench, but there is no punching bag there, you can go craft a punching bag, put it there, and boom, Hitmonchan might show up, right? And you can also check which items and furniture are needed by using the habitat dex. You do not need to follow how the items are arranged in the habitat icons, but make sure to place them next to each other, right? So if it looks like the bench and the punching bag, like in the icon, looks like they have to be left and right of each other, it doesn't matter. They just have to be right next to each other. It doesn't matter from which position. So make sure to keep that in mind as well. And of course, habitats will sparkle. They'll have a sparkle around them if objects are correct. Basically, if everything's correct there, if you follow the requirements properly, a sparkle will appear, which signals that you have built a habitat as needed. And once a habitat is built, well, wild Pokemon will appear, and you can see from the area like which ones are going to be there. Also keep in mind that if an area or an habitat you've created is already occupied, so let's say if you built an entire flower bed filled with just a Pidgey now, well, guess what? You're going to have to build another one if you want the other potential Pokemon, you know, from that habitat to actually appear. So if you want the Combi to appear instead of the Pidgey, you have to build another habitat actually. So it is a little annoying, but yes, that's what you're gonna have to do. That's just how it is, but it's also kind of fun, isn't it, right? Also, weather and time will affect appearance of certain Pokemon as well, so keep that in mind. Very important to remember. And also, you can move Pokemon from their habitat to a house. So if you build these houses, as we mentioned before, you can do that and move Pokemon into them. Also, if you're gonna be doing any crafting, which is part of like majority of this game, you're gonna have to start by, of course, gathering materials, which of course you can do if you have the cut move from Scyther. You can go out there and cut down a bunch of stuff, like cut down trees, cut down grass, and get resources that way. Like for example, if you want to build a straw bed, for example, you're going to have to get your hands on 2 leaves, right? And that's how you make it. If you want to make a log table, you need 1 small log, which you can get from a tree. And of course, if you want to get a log chair, you need a small log as well. And you can make that. If you want to make a campfire outdoors, you're going to need a sturdy stick and of course some stone to make that. If you want to make a storage box early on, you're going to need 1 lumber. And if you want to make a workbench, you're going to need 2 stones for it. So it's not like crazy, you know, guides or whatever needed to craft certain stuff. Like maybe late game, yes, but early on you should be pretty fine. You're not going to need the craziest amounts of items, but once you do have them, if you place them down, you know, down anywhere, they will be usable right off the bat. Also, don't miss out on requests. So basically, there are requests you can do in the game, which are kind of like side quests that are given by Pokemon in Pokopia, and if you talk to them, they'll give you different like side missions to do. Like for example, one of them is the Scyther request. Scyther asks you to bring him 2 sturdy sticks, and the reward is you learn the move Cut, right? So if you want to get the move Cut, you just gotta bring him 2 sturdy sticks. For example, though, there's also Hitmonchan's request, which requires you to bring 2 stones, and doing this, he gives you Rock Smash. But also, you can find some other things like Hitmonchan's second request, where he checks, he wants you to check the item found at the top of the hill, and if you do this, you'll earn the Dowsing Machine item, which is pretty awesome. So there's gonna be loads of these in the game. Make sure to do any of the requests because they will reward you with good stuff always. And if you do not know how to get the request, just look for any Pokemon that have a speech bubble over them. That will give you an indication. And then once you have these, you can open up your menu, like your little Pokédex thing, and you can check your requests there. It's this little blue icon with like a exclamation mark. Check that and it will kind of give you an indication of any pending requests, and also check which ones you have and then go and do them, because it is important to do these, because otherwise you may not be able to get your hands on things like Cut from Scyther, which is a super important move to have. And yeah, those are some of the, I guess, early tips. Hopefully some of these are useful to you. Hopefully I didn't babble on for too much. Hopefully it comes in handy. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.